So today we will be going over our Chapter 2 review. So for Chapter 2, our first 3 questions, write each decimal as a fraction or as a mixed number in simplest form. One of the biggest problems we had was that people did not write these in simplest form. Whenever we have a problem, you always simplify unless it asks you to find equivalent ratios, in which case you won't be simplifying. Every other time you will be simplifying. So I want you to do this in your notebooks, and then we'll go over how to do it. Like I said, these problems, doing the 3 of them, should take you no longer than about a minute. The first problem will take you about 3 seconds. Who can tell me what place value that is in, Hannah? That's in the tenths. So the answer is 3/10. That's it. That's it. What about this one? What place value is the furthest number in, Rocco? The hundredths place. So we write 65/100. But is that the answer? No. We have to simplify it. When we simplify it, what do we get, Rafi? 13/20. Once again, we find the greatest common factor. It is 5. Even if you didn't know the greatest common factor, they both end in a 5 or 0. Just start dividing by things. Lastly, here's the cheat method for this one. We already know it's going to be a mixed number. So we know it's going to be 9 and something over something. You don't even need to do anything with that first number. It's 9 and something over something. What place value is this in, Nathan?
100.
It's in the hundredths. So then it's going to be 35/100. Is that our answer? No, we need to simplify. What do we get? 9 and what? What do we get? Let's see, Lucy. 7/20. Exactly. Once again, our GCF is 5. Even if you didn't know that, you can see they're both divisible by 5. Just go. See how that took us about a minute? Exactly. So Hannah came up with a great example. You can multiply until you get something that's over 1, over 10, over 100, over any sort of thing like that. And then we just move the decimal back. Let's say that we had 756/100. To make it a decimal, we just move it back until it's over 1. So we move it back, and our decimal would be 7.56. That easy for that. I want you to try this. Another way you can do it is long divide. Those are the 2 ways. So as Hannah so brilliantly said, we can make it something over 1, 10, 100,000. What are we going to make this one over? What are we going to make this one over, Jenna? We're going to make it over 100. How do we get from 25 to 100, Nathan?
Times 4.
Times 4. What we do to the bottom?
We do to the top.
Excellent. What is 19 times 4, Trey?
177. What?
19 times
76.
76. Now, so what we do now is we want to get our decimal over 1. When we get something over 1, that's just our answer. So we have to move our decimal. 1, 2. We do the same to the top. We did that. 1, 2. So our answer becomes 0.76. Congratulations. We did that problem. So Trey said we can divide it by 5 to get 100. That's a good thing. But is 311 divisible by 5? No. So we're not going to do that. What can we do instead? What can we do instead, Fernando? Multiply by 2. We get 1,000. And what do we get at the top? Hannah? 622. Once again, we bring our fraction, or we bring our decimal over 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We get 0.622. Excellent. I'm going to skip to D because it stays along with the same thing. We get 14 3/5. If we're writing it as a decimal, we already know it's going to be 14 point something. 14 point something. Whenever we have our big number, it stays the same. We have our integer, it stays the same. 3/5. 3/5. What can we make that into that's nice and easy? What can we make it into, Nathan? 10. How do we get from 5 to 10? What do we do? Hands, fingers up. How many times? 2. So what do we get for the top number? Who can tell me? Liam.
Top number?
Yep. For a numerator, what does it become? 6. Exactly. Thank you, Daniel. So we get 6. We move it over 1 time here. We move it over 1 time here. Our answer becomes 14.6. Super easy. Now, with our last one, we have a little bit more difficulty, but really it's not that much because I'm telling you the easiest way to do these. For this one, we have 5/8. Can 8 really multiply to anything that's going to be helpful? 10, 100, 1,000? No, it can't. So we're going to long divide. Which number is our divisor? Who can tell me which number is our divisor? Rafi? I believe that it is not. What number is our divisor, Miles? 5. And I think 8 is the dividend. Am I correct on this?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I'm not quite sure. So let's find our quotient. Now, we already know that it's going to be 0 point something because 5 is less than 8. So we already know that. We bring our decimal. How many times does 8 go into 50? Who can tell me, Fernando? 6 times, exactly. And what is that? Who can tell me? Michelle? What's 6 times 8? 48. So we get 2. We bring down our next 0. How many times does 8 go into 20? Who can tell me, Romario? How many times does 8 go into 20? 2 times. And that's 16. We have 4. We bring down our last 0. Emerson, how many times does 8 go into 40? 5 times. And it is exactly 40. So there we are done. And look, we're already in decimal form. So we get 0.625 or 625 thousandths. This is very, very easy. What percent of the days are sunny? How do we find percent? Percent is something over what, Nathan? Percent is something over 100. So to get sunny, how do we get from 25 to 100? Times what, Romario? 25 to 100 times what? Times 4. So we do the same to the top. What's 11 times 4, Madison?
11 times 4 is 44.
Perfect. 44. So 44% of the days are sunny. Next, what percent of the days were rainy? It's the exact same thing that we're doing. What percent of the days were rainy? We multiply 25 times 4, so we do the same to the top. Malia, what's 4 times 4? 16. Exactly. Now this is super easy. Ready? This next one. What percent of the days were sunny or rainy? We already did both of these. How do we do this? What percent of the days were sunny or rainy, Trey?
Sunny and rainy was 60.
60. How do we find that, Hannah?
We added.
You add. That's it. You added 44 and 16. Now lastly, what percent were cloudy or partly cloudy? If we have both of them, this is the easiest way to do it. We'll add them together. What do we get when we add 1/10 and 3/10? What do we get, Rocco? We get 4/10. And then we need to make it over what? What do we need to make it over, Trey? 100. How do we get that? We multiply it times?
10.
Yeah, 10. So what is 4 times 10?
40.
Excellent. 40. So the answer is 40%. You see how easy these problems are when you remember the tricks?
Yes.
I'm not sure why I made the graph. I forgot I took a picture of it on the other page, but I did it prettily anyway. So, next question. Write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. This should be really, really easy. What is a percent always over? What is a percent always over, Daniel? Over 100. So we get 14 over 100. We get 47 over 100. And we get 88 over 100. Excellent. Now, 47 over 100. Can we simplify that? No. So that is just 47 over 100. But we can simplify the other two. Do that on your paper. 14 and 100. What can we divide them both by?
2.
We divide them both by, Daniel? 2. So we get 7 over 50. Can we get any smaller? No, that's our answer. What about 88 over 100? What can we divide them both by? What's the greatest common factor? Who knows, Romario? You can divide them by 2 and we can just keep working. We would get 44 over 50. Can we divide it by anything else, Adriana? 4. So if we divided it by 4, what is 88 divided by 4? Who can tell me 88 divided by 4? Rocco? 22. And what's 100 divided by 4? Everyone should know this, Fernando? 25. So look at that. This problem took about 2 minutes maybe. So you're going to write each percent as a decimal and as a mixed number or fraction in simplest form. A decimal or a mixed number or fraction. I'm going to give you a hint. When we have a percent over 300, we know, or over 100 I mean, we know that our initial thing is going to be 3 point something, and it's going to be 3 and some fraction. Same thing here with the 480. It's going to be 4 point something and 4 and something over something. Whenever we have over 100%, that's simply how it works. As opposed to when we have under 100%, it's going to be 0 point something and just a fraction. 0 point something and just a fraction. We do the exact same thing. Put it over the furthest place to the right. Put it over the furthest place to the right. So you guys should all do this right now. Who remembers the trick way that we can make a percent into a decimal? Who remembers, Fernando? Yes, we move it 2 places away from the percent. Here's our 1. We have our 1, 2. So we move it 1, 2. So as our decimal, we're going to get 3.5. Exactly. 3.5. That's as a decimal, so we get 5. That's going to be what place is that? What place is that? Anita, what place is that 0.5 in? Yes, it is the 10th place. We get 5 over 10. But is that going to be our answer? No! We need to simplify. 5 over 10 simplifies to what? Don't shout out, Trey, but yes, it is 1/2. So we get 3.5 and we get 3 and 1/2. Exactly. So I want you to continue and do the same for all of them. As Fernando so acutely said, to make something into a decimal, all you do is you move it over 2 times away from the percentage sign. So we move it, for this case, we move it 1, 2. So we get 0.0005, right? 0.0005. Oops, that's in the wrong box, but that's fine. 0.0005. What place is that 5 in? What place is that 5 in, Trey? It is not in the thousands. Good guess, Michelle. 10,000. So we get 5 over 10,000. What is their greatest common factor? 5. We divide them both by 5. We get 1 over. What's 10,000 divided by 5, Michelle? 2,000. And that's our answer. 1 over 2,000. Excellent. C is incredibly similar. It's incredibly similar. We move it over 1, 2. We get 0.0055. Once again, we're in the 10,000s place. So we get 5 over 10,000. What's the greatest common factor they have in common, Daniel? 5. So we get, what's 55 divided by 5?
11.
We get 11. And then we already did it before, over 2,000. 11 over 2,000. The last one, this one, for our decimal, 480%, right? We move our decimal over, 1, 2. We get 4.8, exactly. And as such, what place value is our 8 in, Emerson? What place value is it in? The tenths. We get 8 over 10. We need to simplify. When we simplify this, what do we get, Gohar? Yes, Gohar, we get 4/5. So we get 4 and 4/5. Excellent. Make sure you have this down. We are moving on. Write each mixed number or decimal as a percent. This is easy. We already know as a percent, if it's more than 100, if it's more than 1, it's going to start with whatever the big number is. So we already know that it's going to be 4 something and 2 something. In this case, it's not. Fernando, what's the trick when going to make a decimal into a percent? What do? We move it 2 times towards the percent sign. 1, 2. So this is 0.15%. Can we have percents less than 1?
No.
Or yeah. Can we have percents less than anything like that? They're numbers. They can be anything. As such, we have 2.64. 2.64. We move it over twice towards the percent. We get 264%. Last one that's difficult is 4 1/5. 4 1/5. We need to make that into a decimal. What is 1/5 as a decimal? This is something you might have memorized, or you can do the multiplication. Miles? Not 10/10. That means 1. What do we get, Hannah? We do get 2/10, and if it's 2/10, what do we get as our answer? It's going to be, Gore, 0.2. Exactly. 2/10 means 0.2. We move it over, 1, 2. We get 420%. Excellent. As a decimal, same thing. We move it away from the percent sign. 1, 2. We get 0.003. To make this next one a percent, we move it 1, 2. We get 824.5%. Excellent. Here's the other thing. As a fraction, we already know what it's going to be. What is the 3 in? What place value is that 3 in? Who can tell me what place value is the 3 in, Romario? Thousandths. So we get 3 over 1,000. Is that our answer? Is that our answer?
No.
Can we
Yes.
Yes, it is. We can't simplify it. As such, what place value is this decimal in here? We're going to get 8 and some fraction. What place value is that last digit in? Everybody should know. What place value is that last digit in, Andrew? As Andrew said, it's in the thousandths place. So we get 245 out of 1,000. However, we need to simplify that. What can we divide them both by? What's the first number that comes to your head?
63.
What is it, Hannah? 5. I don't know what the greatest common factor is. Let's divide it by 5, right? So 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. What's 200 divided by 5? 200 divided by 5, Daniel? 40. So we have 40. And what's 45 divided by 5? Who can tell me 45 divided? Gore? 9. So our answer becomes 49. So we get 8 and 49 over 200. Exactly. Last one. I made this super easy. On a previous slide, we already divided 5/8. What is 5/8 as a decimal when we saw it earlier, Gore?
0.625.
Perfect. 0.625. Then we just need to make it into a percent. Remember, we move it towards the percent. 1, 2. We get 62.5%. You see how quick this problem is when we know what we're doing?
Yeah.
Exactly. You should have this first one memorized. What is 1/4 as a decimal? What is 1/4 as a decimal, Rafi? 0.25. Which is bigger, 0.25 or 0.4?
0.4.
What is it, Hannah?
0.4.
Perfect. Already solved. This next one, 7/8 and 5/6. Let's just butterfly math this. What's 7 times 6? 7 times 6 is? What do we get, Adriana? We get 42. Then what is 8 times 5? Who can tell me 8 times 5? Daniel? We get 40. Which one's bigger? Which one's bigger, Madison? 42. So we eat that one. Now, 2.3 and 2 3/10. We should know this. 2.3 is what as a fraction? 2.3 is what as a fraction? Trey.
3 over 10.
Yeah, 2 and 3 over 10. So which is bigger, 2 and 3 over 10 or 2 and 3 over 10? What? Exactly, they are equal. Last one, here's the trick. We have 0.7 and we have 7/9. 0.7, what is that as a fraction? What is that as a fraction, Matthew? It is 7/10. Let's look at this. 7/10 and 7/9. Which is bigger? 7/10 or 7/9, Lily? 7/9 is bigger because when the denominator is smaller, our fraction is bigger. We're going to come back to number 9. First, we're going to go to 10. A store is having a sale where winter clothes are 60% off the original price. A sweater is on sale for $30. What is the original price of the sweater? So we set it up like this. We know our percents are always over 100. So we have 60 over 100. And our price is the part. So it goes on top, correct? It's part. How do we go from 60 to 30? What do we do, Trey? 60 to 30, we divide by 2. So we do the same thing on this side. Divide by 2. What's the answer, Rafi? 50. Now our answer is not 30 over 50 because we're trying to find this. So our answer is 50. Exactly. Now we're going to look back at this previous problem. We have 6% of 95. That means 6 over 100 is equal to, here's the trick to remember. It is over of. So we get this. It says of 95, so 95 is on the bottom. We want to get what's on the top. So the easiest way to do this one is to make it into a decimal and multiply. What is 6 over 100 as a decimal? Who can tell me, Hannah?
0.0.
Perfect. It is 0.06. And we're going to multiply that times 95. I'm going to put this 95 on the top. When we multiply, we bring it over here, and then at the end, we bring it back the same amount of times. What is 6 times 5, Romario? 30, 0, 3. What is 6 times 9, Alinza? What is it, Miles?
54.
It is 54. So we have 54, but we have to add that 3, so we get 57. We move our decimal back, we get 5.7. That's our answer. Next problem, it's the same thing. Let's make it into a decimal. 15% as a decimal. What is 15% as a decimal? 15%, Lucy? It is 15 hundredths, 0.15, exactly. And we're multiplying that times 110. We move it over. At the end, we're going to move it back twice. This is easy. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. We put our magic 0. 1 times 0, 0. 1 times 1, 1. 1 times 1, 1. We add them together. We get 0, 5, 6, 1. We move it back twice. We get 16.5. Exactly. What is 102% as a decimal, Fernando? Perfect. We get 1.02, and we're multiplying that times 750. Remember, when we multiply, we always line up on the far right. So we have to move our decimal over 1, 2 places. So in the end, we're going to move it back 1, 2 places. So let's start. 2 times 0, 0. 2 times 5, 10. 2 times 7, 14 makes it 15. Magic 0. But here's the thing. It doesn't even matter because we've got all of this is going to be 0. 0 times 0, 0 times 5, 0 times 7. So I'm just going to skip that and add our second magic 0 for the next one. 1 times 0, 0. 1 times 5, 5. 1 times 7, 7. We add them together. 0, 0, 5, 6, 7. We move our decimal back 1, 2. We get our answer to be 765. Exactly. Lastly, I want to see Gloria. What is 0.03 as a decimal?
0.00.
Perfect. It's going to be 0.0003. We're going to line that up with 1500. In the end, we move it 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the end, we're going to move it back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This is easy. 3 times 0. We get 0. 3 times 0, 0. 3 times 5, 15. 3 times 1 is 3. We put a 4 there. We move it all the way back. We get 1, 2, 3, 4. Our answer is 0.45 or 45 hundredths. Fernando calculates that he spends 15% of his school day in math class. That means it's 15 over 100. If he spends 75 minutes in math class, how many minutes does he spend in school? Is 75 our part or our whole? Raise our hand. Part or whole, Michelle? Part. How do I get from 15 to 75? Who can tell me? What do we do? What do we do, Gore? times 5. What's 100 times 5? What is it, Trey? 500. So he spends 500 minutes in school. Action movies make up 85% of Emmett's movie collection. If he has 20 movies, how many action movies are in his collection? Is 20 the part or the whole, Nathan?
The part.
Who thinks it's the part? Raise our hands.
Wait, what?
Who thinks it's the whole? Raise our hands. It is the whole because he has 20 movies. How do we get from 100 to 20? What do we do? Rafi?
Divided by 5.
So we're going to do the same to 85. Who can tell me what 85 divided by 5 is? 85 divided by 5, Romario? What is it, Gore? It is 17. Once again, you could just do long division. We're just doing it quickly. So he has 17 action movies. If Devin has 3 cups of pineapple juice, how many total cups of punch can she make? Now, I have 3 cups. Is that the part or is that the whole? Raise your hand, Trey. It is not the whole, it is the part. We know that because it says total cups. Total is whole. We don't know what it is. Now, pineapple juice. What's the percent of pineapple juice? What is it? 20 over 100. We can't do this very easily at first, 20 to 3, so we have to simplify. 20 over 100. What is 20 over 100 simplified? 20 over 100 simplified, Michelle. 1/5. How do we go from 1 to 3? What do we do? Liam? 1 to 3 is times 3. So we do the same to the bottom. What's 5 times 3, Rafi? 15. So I can make 15 cups of punch. How many cups of sorbet are used in 8 cups of punch? Is 8 going to be our part or our whole? Madison, 8 is our part or whole? 8 is the whole because it's 8 cups of punch. Sorbet. What is the percent of sorbet? What is the percent of sorbet? Melanie, what's the percent of sorbet? 15. So we get 15 over 100. Again, we can't do this one very well, so we have to simplify. We can't do this very well, so we have to simplify. Gore, what do we get? 3/20. We get 3/20. It's still not great, but 3/20 is equal to something over 8. So what we do is we cross multiply. We get 20x is equal to 24. We divide by 20 to get our x alone. We isolate that variable. X is equal to 24 over 4. That simplifies to 1 4/20, which then simplifies to 1 1/5, which is 1.2. Exactly.